Have you ever had the strange feeling of being alive, but not really alive? As if everything around you was working, but inside you something was frozen in time. A restlessness no one sees, a cry muffled by routine, a weariness that comes not from the body but from the soul. What if I told you that this feeling isn't a defect but a signal? A silent wake-up call to get out of automatic mode and see what no one told you about normal life. What if the problem was never you, but the world around you? This video won't give you ready-made answers, but it will open doors within you that may have never been touched. Because there's a reason behind your dissatisfaction. And once you understand that, you won't be able to live the same way again. When everything works, but nothing makes sense. You wake up, get up, do your duties, answer messages, clock in, do what needs to be done. Seemingly, everything is in order. The machine turns, the system runs, the routine happens. But inside, an uncomfortable silence begins to take over. It's not sadness, it's not depression, it's not even physical exhaustion. It's a silent question, echoing endlessly. Is this all there is? The curious thing is that you can't pinpoint exactly what's wrong, because technically, nothing is. But deep down you feel something is deeply out of place, and the hardest part is that no one seems to notice. Everyone keeps smiling, posting, living as if everything is fine. But you feel it. Something is broken. And maybe it was never whole. Alan Watts said that society has built a world where we function as cogs in a system, rather than as living beings with souls, hungers for meaning and a need for real connection. The truth is, we've been domesticated to believe that if everything is working, then life is right. But does everything working mean everything is okay? What if functioning is just an elegant disguise for an ever-deepening void? The goals we achieve, the schedules we follow, the bills paid, the checklists completed, all of these give us a sense of control. But control isn't felt. Functioning is simply surviving on autopilot, while what's essential within us screams for something more. And this something more isn't found in productivity, status, or approval. It's in what doesn't fit on charts. It's in what we feel, even when they try to convince us that everything is fine. This is where the most silent conflict of modern life lies. The world applauds you while you fade away inside. It's possible to be at the peak of efficiency and yet completely disconnected from yourself. The cruelest thing is that this kind of pain isn't visible. It doesn't bleed, doesn't scream, doesn't miss work. It remains silent like a gray backdrop that fades everything that once seemed colorful. And then, things start to lose their flavor. The music doesn't play like it used to, the encounters seem empty, the achievements become mere milestones in a timeline you don't feel is yours. Everything is right, but you're not. And perhaps this is the soul's greatest cry for help, functioning perfectly within a system that sickens you without you even realizing it. Watts challenges us to reverse the question, what if the error isn't in you, but in the very concept of normality? Perhaps the fact that everything is working too hard is precisely the warning, because life isn't a flawless app. It needs pauses, silence, space to ask if it still makes sense to continue this way. The first step to breaking out of this torpor isn't running away, it's seeing. Seeing that perfect functioning doesn't guarantee a full life. On the contrary, sometimes it's in the apparent chaos, in the confusion, in the doubt, that you begin to reconnect with what's real, with that which pulses even without logic, with that which doesn't just want to function, it wants to live. 2. The fatigue that doesn't go away with sleep. There are days when you sleep 8 hours, drink coffee, try to smile, but still wake up exhausted. It's not just your body that weighs you down. It's as if your soul is pulling invisible baggage, something you carry but can't name. It's a fatigue that comes not from physical exertion, but from repetition. From waking up every day to live a life that seems to not belong to you. You feel like you're in a poorly written play, acting out lines that no longer make sense, trying to look good while everything inside you screams for rest. But not just any rest. A real rest, the kind that calms even what the mind doesn't understand. Alan Watts said we confuse relaxation with distraction. Most tired people seek relief in addictions masquerading as leisure. They scroll endlessly, binge-watch soulless series, consume, buy, escape, but they never truly rest. And how could they? True rest only comes when the soul feels at home. And the soul's home isn't made of screens, tasks, or goals. It's made of presence, silence, contemplation. But the modern world has stifled this kind of pause. We've made idleness a sin, slowness a failure, silence a discomfort. We're so addicted to stimuli that we've forgotten what it's like to simply exist, without the need to yield, without the need to justify, without the need to perform. This silent exhaustion builds up. It lives in the conversations you feign interest in the smiles you force onto your face, in the promises you make to yourself and never keep. It lives in the expectations you swallow silently, in the truths you shelve so as not to disappoint, in the dreams you file away so as not to upset. Little by little, this exhaustion turns into apathy. You no longer feel anger, joy, or sadness. You just feel nothing. And that's where the danger sets in. Because the opposite of being well isn't being bad. It's feeling nothing anymore. It's waking up every day like someone serving a probationary sentence with your body free but your soul trapped in an invisible labyrinth. But there's something sacred about this kind of exhaustion. Because it's not just a breakdown, it's a warning. A cry for help from the most alive part of you that still exists. When even sleep doesn't cure it, it's a sign that the problem isn't rest, but the life you're trying to rest. Watts reminds us that true awakening begins when the soul refuses to continue living on autopilot. When it begins to silently ask for another rhythm, another place, another way of existing. And this request, when heard, can be the first step toward a reconnection that changes everything. Because truly resting isn't about stopping, it's about go back to where you stopped being you. 3. The farce of normal life. From a young age, we were trained to fit in. To fit into a group, to fit into school, to fit into society, to fit into a role. Normal life became the mold we all had to fill. Study, work, earn, buy, show off. But no one asked us if this made sense. We grew up thinking that happiness was a set of goals achieved and that success was a pretty image for others to see. But there comes a time when the script falters. You start doing everything right, but inside, you feel like you're living something fake, and you can't explain why. Normal life, as they say, is a collective construction, but it's a construction built on silence, fear, and convenience. Alan Watts said that we're hypnotized by the idea that we're doing fine, when in reality we're just too busy to realize we are. Far from ourselves, normality in this sense is a performance. It's a play where everyone pretends to believe so as not to be the first to dismantle the stage. It takes courage to break with this because breaking with the norm is to challenge a mechanism that profits from its conformity. But it's also the only way out of the alienation that empties our lives. Deep down, everyone senses something's wrong, but most prefer to pretend they don't see it. Because seeing is hard work. Seeing requires choices. It requires giving up easy applause, automatic belonging, and false security. Seeing requires returning to yourself, and that's scary. But ignoring this call is living a superficial existence, where the shine lies in appearances, not in real experience. You begin to realize that normal life demands that you silence your essence in exchange for acceptance. And when this happens for too long, you become accustomed to the discomfort, until it becomes unbearable. And that's when everything starts to change. When normal is no longer bearable, something new begins to creep in. It may come as discomfort, doubt, fatigue. But it's the seed of awakening. Alan Watts proposed a new way of living, with presence, with surrender, with truth. And maybe you're exactly at that point. Tired of the farce, but still unsure of what to replace it with. And that's okay, because it's in honesty with this discomfort that the possibility of a more authentic life is born. A life where you no longer need to fit in, because you finally understood that you weren't born to fit in, but to overflow. 4. The noise that silences the soul. We live immersed in noise. Sounds, notifications, voices, screens, promises, urgencies, all at once. But it's not just physical noise. It's mental and emotional noise, a saturation of stimuli that clogs the channels through which the soul should breathe. And the cruelest part, we've learned to call this life. We've learned to confuse distraction with pleasure, movement with meaning, fulfillment with presence. Silence has become an enemy. Pausing has become a sign of weakness. Reflecting, a luxury. Alan Watts said that the fear of emptiness is the fear of encountering our true selves. And perhaps that's why the modern world makes so much noise, so that no one has time to listen to their own soul begging for meaning. In this scenario, the soul is pushed to the sidelines. There's no room for it in the chaotic traffic, the hurried social media, the monthly goals. Everything seems too urgent to allow for depth. And so we silence what we feel. Anger becomes distraction. Sadness becomes a post. Pain becomes a meme. And the void, we try to fill it with anything that makes us forget it exists. But it doesn't disappear. It just waits, patiently, for the day when there are no longer enough distractions to silence it. Because no matter how much noise the world makes, there comes a time when everything gets tiring. And when the noise tires, the silence returns. And with it comes everything we try to avoid. Silence, which has been demonized for so long, is actually a fertile ground. It's in silence that you hear what's always been screaming inside you. It's in silence that the important questions arise. Who am I without all this? What truly nourishes me? Where am I going? And why do I keep going, even when everything inside me tells me to stop? These questions don't arise amidst the noise. They arise in the stillness. And that's why the system avoids them. Because those who begin to listen to themselves begin to change. They begin to break out of the script. They begin to stop being predictable. And the system doesn't know how to deal with those who listen to your own soul again. The challenge then is this: learning to value silence as an ally, not an enemy. Watts said that emptiness is where everything begins. The seed germinates in darkness. The universe emerged from nothing. Silence is where new beginnings are born. But this takes courage. The courage to tune out the noise, to not respond to every message, to leave your feet alone, to be with yourself without distractions. Because it is in this space, where the world finally falls silent, that something begins to be reborn. Something that comes not from outside, but from within. Something that makes no noise, but makes sense. 5. You are here, but not present. Have you ever found yourself in a crowded place, participating in a conversation, laughing, but inside, completely absent, as if you were watching your own life from the outside, your body present, but your soul elsewhere? This subtle dissociation has become increasingly common and increasingly ignored. We're so busy appearing to be alive that we forget to be truly alive. Presence has become a rare commodity. And with it, we lose something essential, a real connection with what we're doing, with who we are, with the moment that's unfolding, and will never come back. Alan Watts said that life only happens in the now, but almost no one lives in the now. We're always ahead or behind, worried about what's to come or stuck in what's past. The present is overwhelmed by anxiety and guilt. And so, we live in a body that follows the script, while the mind travels to distant places. We eat without tasting. We talk without truly listening. We work without noticing the time. We live as if we're always late for something, even without knowing exactly what. Presence has dissolved amidst the rush, and with it, the charm of simple things has been lost. But there are times when absence weighs heavily. Moments when you realize you don't remember how you got here, that you no longer feel pleasure in the things that once filled you, that everything has become automatic. As if you were a character in a story you didn't write. This feeling of displacement is a wake-up call. The world has taught you to be everywhere but yourself, to care about everything except what's going on inside. And when this goes on for too long, your soul begins to withdraw. It begins to fall silent. Until one day you wake up and no longer recognize yourself. Returning to presence doesn't require major revolutions. It requires reconnection. It's stopping and feeling the wind, the breath, the taste of food, someone's gaze. It's being whole in the little things. It's remembering that, behind obligations, there's still life. Watts said that the miracle lies in the simple things, when seen with awakened eyes. And maybe you don't need a new life. Maybe you just need truly be in the life you already have. Because now, this moment that passes as you read these words, is the only place where the soul can truly dwell. And it is there that healing begins. Why does feeling so much feel wrong? From an early age, we learn that feeling too much is dangerous, that crying is weakness, that showing pain is exposure, that talking about feelings is a sign of vulnerability. And so we silenced emotions like hiding body parts to fit into a too tight outfit. But the problem is that emotions don't disappear. They build up. They hide in pain that doesn't go away, in unexplained anguish and silent anxieties that steal the breath. Feeling too much has become a source of shame, when in fact it should be a source of pride. Because feeling deeply isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of life pulsing with strength. Alan Watts said that modern humans are afraid of their own depths, that the more sensitive someone is, the closer they are to the truth, and that's frightening. The world values control, performance, appearance. Feeling too much is seen as exaggeration, as instability, as weakness. But who decided that the right amount of feeling is the one that doesn't bother anyone? Who said lucidity doesn't hurt? Maybe you're feeling everything so intensely because you're still whole, because you haven't yet become numb, because you haven't yet numbed yourself to the point where you think it's normal to live without a soul. This sensitivity that confuses you so much is actually your greatest tool for connection. It makes you realize what others ignore. It makes you suffer, yes, but it also makes you see beauty where no one else looks. It's what makes you stop before a landscape, be moved by a song, care about others, question the meaning of things. It's what keeps you from accepting superficiality as an answer. And perhaps that's why so many people try to silence this sensitive side, because it bothers. It reveals what has been ignored. It denounces what's wrong. It demands change. So, if you feel too much, don't blame yourself. Honor it. Feel with awareness. Feel with presence. Because running away from pain is also moving away from love. The same heart that suffers intensely is the one that loves deeply. The one that weeps truthfully is also the one that is enchanted sincerely. Alan Watts said that life is only full when it is felt fully, with all its lights and shadows. And perhaps in an anesthetized world, feeling too much is the last sign of sanity. The sign that you are still alive, still whole, still able to be touched by what is real. 7. The void is not the end, it is the beginning. Emptiness is frightening. When it appears, everything loses its flavor. Conversations seem repetitive. Tasks lose their meaning. Days drag on like chapters in a story you no longer want to read. It's as if life has become black and white, and worst of all, without explanation. But what if I told you that this emptiness isn't the end? What if it is, in fact, the beginning of a new chapter? Alan Watts said that emptiness is fertile, and that it is in it that the soul finds space to grow. But the system doesn't want you to know this. Because whoever learns to be silent with emptiness discovers a dangerous freedom, the freedom to think for themselves. The world taught you to fear emptiness because it doesn't generate profit. A silent heart doesn't consume. A questioning mind doesn't submit. A human being connected to their own rhythm doesn't fit into unattainable goals. That's why we were taught to fill any gap with distraction. Feeling empty? Buy something. Feeling lonely? Post something. Feeling confused? Binge watch any series. Just don't stand still. Just don't listen to what the emptiness wants to tell you. Because emptiness, when listened to attentively, reveals truths that dismantle the logic of haste. And the deepest truth is, emptiness comes when the soul decides to no longer be content with the superficial. It is not the absence of meaning. It is the hunger for true meaning. It's the space that opens up when you begin to let go of what was never yours. It's a sacred pause between who you were and who you're becoming. Yes, it hurts. It's confusing. It's lonely. But it's also honest. Because for the first time, you're not trying to appear anything. You're just existing, just as you are, with your soul raw, waiting for the next truth that will rebuild you. Watts would say this is the most important moment of the journey. When you stop running from what you feel and start diving in. When you understand that the void doesn't need to be filled in a hurry, but respected as part of the path because it's there, in the silence of answers yet to come, that the seed of change begins to germinate. Don't try to run away from it. Sit with it. Talk to it. Ask it what it's trying to show you. And perhaps you'll discover that the emptiness that so frightens you is just the soul creating space to finally blossom. 8. Coming home was never an escape. In a world that values noise, haste, exposure, and performance, choosing to retreat into oneself can seem like weakness, as if retreating means giving up, as if slowing down means losing. But the truth is the opposite. Coming back to yourself is the greatest act of courage that anyone can have today. Alan Watts said that wisdom begins when we stop trying to control everything and simply allow ourselves to be. And being, in the purest sense, requires silence, requires solitude, requires time. And this is scary, because going within means facing the dark rooms we've kept locked away for years. Many people confuse retreat with escape, but escaping is running from what you feel. Coming back to yourself is doing exactly the opposite. It's stopping. It's looking in the mirror and asking honestly, where did I lose myself? It's opening your eyes to what truly matters. It's reevaluating choices, cutting out excesses, rediscovering simple pleasures. It's exchanging noise for silence, comparison for gratitude, obligation for presence. And this, in times of chaos, is almost a revolutionary act, because those who return to themselves rediscover what the world tried to erase. This return, however, isn't immediate. It's a road paved with doubts, tears, and discoveries. It's remembering who you were before the fear. It's relearning to trust your own intuition. It's realizing that what you sought outside was always inside, but it was buried under layers of expectation, fear of rejection, and a need for acceptance. Watts said the biggest mistake is to lose yourself trying to be someone others approve of. And maybe, deep down, you're tired of that. Tired of acting. Tired of pleasing. Tired of forgetting yourself to fit into a story that was never yours. Coming back to yourself is not an escape. It is reunion, and the world may not understand. They may call it selfishness, weakness, rebellion. But you will know. You will feel it. Because for the first time in a long time, you will stop just surviving, and you will start truly living. And this moment, however small it may seem, is sacred. It's the soul saying, enough pretending, I'm back. And when that happens, everything changes. Because when you come back to yourself, nothing else out there has the power to bring you down. Because now, finally, you are whole. If you've made it this far, perhaps there's a voice inside you that's also tired of pretending. A silent part that can no longer bear to live half-heartedly, that can no longer accept merely functioning in a world that has forgotten what it means to be truly human. Perhaps you're caught between two worlds, the one you knew and the one that's still emerging, and this space can be confusing, lonely, and frightening. But it's also where awakening resides. Alan Watts said that true freedom begins when we allow ourselves to be true to our own nature. And if you felt this video more than you watched it, if something inside you vibrated, identified with it, cried, or simply remained silent, know that this is the first step. There is no ready-made path, no absolute answers, but there is one thing this world has not yet managed to extinguish in you: the thirst for truth. Here, on this channel, we don't offer magic formulas. We offer space. Space to think, to feel, to be. And if you also feel the need for a place where you don't have to pretend, where you can simply exist, then this channel is for you. Here, all clarity is welcome. Every question is valid. Every restless soul has a place. So if this content spoke to you, don't let this moment slip away. Subscribe, because staying awake is easier when we walk together. Like, comment, share. But most of all, remember yourself. Between the noise and the silence, choose to return, always, because in the end what we need most is just to return home.